for basketball. You want to talk about a dork? Just because you got a lot of time to work out.
What's going on, you guys? Today we have Sam Seder responding to Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan was bashing Sam Seder, and Sam responds. Let's get into it.
See the light. Oh, and from Miami, everyone go on the Joe Rogan subreddit and post the clip of Rogan talking about Sam. All right, well, let's just get this out of the way. I went on to the Patrick Bet David show and made the argument that you asked me about taxation. And I made the argument, which I've made on this program many times over the years, that we should return to the tax rate that we had, at least the top marginal tax rate that we had back in, I think, starting in the late 40s into the 50s, well into the 60s. In the mid 60s, I think it was dropped a little bit. But it was 90 to 91% for approximately $400,000 and $450,000 at that time, which would be more or less the equivalent of $3 million. I don't need to haggle about 1 percentage point here or a couple of tens of thousands there. I'm willing to negotiate on some of those specifics. The idea being, with marginal rates, that when you get to $3 million, you've been taxed at the rate below. Let's say it's just 37%. I'm going to give you a break because it was actually a lot higher as it was graduated much more back in those days. First $3 million up past whatever gets you into the 37% tax bracket. I think it's around 150. I'm not sure, but 150,000. But essentially, almost all of your money at that point, if you have $3 million, or let's say you have $5 million, $3 million taxed at a 37% rate. Above that, 90% rate. So if you make $5 million, you'll get like a 1.8 million of that goes to taxes.
And this top marginal tax rate that Sam is talking about goes back to his vid on Jubilee, the Sam Seder versus 20 conservatives video, and he brings that up on there.
Now, why is this the case? Why do I want to do that? Well, I explained it to Patrick Bet David. Joe Rogan apparently gets his news from the Patrick Bet David show, I guess, it turns out. And he apparently has a problem with it. But for whatever reason, he's forgotten my name. That's okay.
A future, healthy, happy life, and what's the impediment of those prospects, and how do we mitigate all these issues? Like inner city crime, violence, gangs, like all that should be of primary concern to anyone who's like, if you're running this country and you're saying, we want to make the greatest country the world has ever known, we think we have the greatest country, we can make it even better, and here's how. The number one would be we got to fix the ghettos. Number one, we got to, the economic disparity, the disparity in terms of the prospects that people have for living a normal, healthy life without violence and crime. The difference between someone who's born in Baltimore and someone who's born in Beverly Hills are so off the charts different, and no one's doing jack shit to try to even that out. Like this idea about like financial equality, like you're not going to achieve that because you're not going to achieve effort equality. There's certain people who are just going to always work harder than other people. This idea of like, we need to redistribute. I was watching this.
Pause it for 1 second. This is what really is fascinating about this. And I hadn't even seen that part of it until he's talking about something called economic disparity. He uses those words. Economic disparity. Now, he's saying that you're not going to have equality of outcomes, but that there's so much economic disparity that it is tearing this country apart. To the ghettos and this and that, whatever he says. But he's right. Economic disparity, wealth inequality.
And right, I'm not sure where Joe Rogan is going with this because it almost makes the point for Sam. It makes the point for Sam Seder that, yes, it is, the economic disparity is due to wealth imbalance. It's due to one that have, and it's the haves and the have-nots. That's what Sam Seder's getting at.
Quality, same thing, is, I think, the biggest problem we have in this country. It creates, well, it diminishes your ability for upward mobility in this country. It creates political inequality. It is self-perpetuating. In other words, it exacerbates. It's almost like it's almost like aggregating interest. It becomes a runaway train. This economic disparity he thinks of. And he says, like, we got to focus on the ghettos. But that is a fundamental misunderstanding of what has created economic disparity in this country. And here is, as soon as he mentions we have the biggest problem, the job number one, how do you deal with economic disparity? He then goes on to criticize the only way of really addressing that we have ever addressed economic disparity in this country, a proposal that I mentioned on Patrick Bet-Davis' show.
Conversation where this fucking dork was trying to say that all money over $3 million that a person makes should be taxed at 90%. Like, that's great for you to say, because you're never going to make $3 million, you fucking idiot. But that's so stupid. The idea behind it is so stupid. The understanding of where that money goes is so stupid. The understanding of incentives. Well, what about fucking venture capital money? What about all the fucking money that you need to make an iPhone? Do you think anything's going to happen if you tax everybody over $3 million, 90%? No. And where's the money going, by the way? It's just going to some fucking magical fairy who's going to evenly distribute it to everybody else, and we're all going to live a great life? Get the fuck out of here. You're just going to empower the government to steal money. That's what you're going to do. It's so dumb. But on the other hand, like, there has to be something better than what we're doing now.
All right. Now, as this ding-dong, who has called me a
fucking
dork and a fucking idiot, tries to sort of...
I mean, I think they should have put Rogan on freaking Jubilee. That would have been funny to see him say, your idea is stupid. That I like money. That your idea is stupid. That's all he's saying. He's just saying that he doesn't agree with what Sam Seder, mentioned as an actual possible, policy, as something that could get put into motion. He's going to disagree with that and then just lean back in his chair. He's like, but there's got to be something. Yeah, just, geez.
Like, look up into his brain and figure out how he's going to deal with this on the other hand. First off, the one thing that he inarguably got true there is that I probably will not make $3 million. There's been a couple of years back in the day where I was close and adjusted for inflation, but not quite. But the idea that I need to make $3 million a year before I opine on tax policy is sort of a effed up situation in and of itself. I don't think that you need to be a multimillionaire to determine what the best tax rate for you is. As far as me being a dork, I've seen Joe Rogan throw a softball. I've played softball with that dude years and years ago, and unless he's gotten exceptionally better, and I would also probably guess we could say the same thing for basketball. You want to talk about a dork? Just because you got a lot of time to work out.
Joe Rogan not good at softball. So there we have it, you guys. Sam Seder defending himself. Joe Rogan attempting to, bash Sam Seder. And, Sam Seder can take the heat, obviously. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, though. It's another day in the progressive way.